and welcome to another educational video about screen printing by Catspit Productions. Today's video is about off contact. This is a video that has been requested a couple of times, and I know I mentioned off contact probably in more than one video in the past, but we never looked at it and discussed it as far as what is off contact and what does it do for you. Well, off contact is simply referring to the distance between the substrate side of your screen and the print surface. Okay? It's not literally the distance between the screen and the palette, because you have to take into consideration the substrate, your t-shirt, because it adds a little bit of thickness, right? So when you set your off contact, it is best to do so when you have a t-shirt loaded on the palette. Or perhaps if you're doing fleece. Fleece is a little bit thicker than a t-shirt, right? So if you have off contact set for a t-shirt and then you move to a sweatshirt, your off contact is no longer good. Okay, you need to raise it a little bit. So the off contact is, there's a couple of things I think that off contact will do for you, and probably the most important thing that it's going to do for you is help you with your coverage. In other words, when your screen is above the print surface and there's a little bit of space, maybe like 1/8 of an inch or less, just a little bit of space, as your squeegee slides across the screen, it's pushing the screen down into contact with the t-shirt as you print. But right behind the squeegee line, okay, right following the squeegee as it goes, the screen lifts up and it will pull what ink is in the mesh through to the t-shirt. So it will actually help you with coverage and pulling the ink out of the mesh into the t-shirt. And also, I think it helps with the shear. In other words, when you're printing and you stroke, you need to cut the ink off. How do you explain it? It shears the ink away from the mesh, and when you don't have off contact, it doesn't have an opportunity to shear or to leave the mesh. It's still in the mesh until you lift the screen up. So off contact is going to help you with your coverage. It's going to help with the ink flow, which also is about coverage. And I believe it will also help you as far as resolution. Your prints will tend to stay a little bit crisper and a little bit cleaner when you have proper off contact. Okay? And remember that when you set off contact, and we'll take a little bit closer look at the head, I'll show you how this particular unit works, how it sets its off contact. But remember that oftentimes when you set off contact, it's now, right? When you set the screen on. But you have to keep in mind that you're going to get a squeegee and ink on here. So that means that when you set the off contact, there could be a little bit of added weight on the edge here, right? That could maybe make your off contact sag a little bit. And that will really depend upon the condition of your press, how well it holds off contact. But in general, I don't really care how brand new your press is. It's the bottom line is that you've got an arm here that's resting on a point here, and then it's hovering over the pallet here. So if you add weight, it's going to flex, okay? If it doesn't flex, the metal would break. All metal, all machines, all parts to a rotary screen printing press will flex to a certain point. That's physics, okay? If the metal didn't flex, it would break, okay? So flexibility actually has a lot to do with the strength of certain metals, all right? But anyway, that's so you have to keep that in mind, that you may end up weighting your screen down a little bit. So sometimes we might angle the screen up just a little bit up at the end, because we know it's going to relax, or we might raise the off contact altogether just a little bit more than what we're looking for, because when we load it up with ink and a squeegee and everything, it's going to relax into that position. So off contact can be something that is very difficult to set and very difficult to maintain. So it's something that you got to get used to, and a lot of people will use pennies or pieces of cardboard out at the edge, and they rest the screen on here in order to set the off contact. And in fact, some people will use those during printing. If the press is unable to keep off contact, they actually use a little kind of lip at the edge of the palette in order to hold this end up. And you know, that works to a certain extent, you know. So you know, that's about it. And let's move in for a close look, and I'll show you what I can about the off contact. And we'll try to, I have it set, I have the off contact set a little bit exaggerated so that we can do this video so that you can see it. Okay, so the off contact that you're going to see on this press right now is a little bit high. Okay, but that I did that so that you can see it. Okay, if I did it exactly to where I do it, you might not really be able to see what I'm talking about. So I did it a little bit high so that I can push the screen down and kind of show you what the off contact is. Although your off contact ideally is going to be, you know, 1/8 of an inch or so. And you know, it's really the slimmer the off contact, the better. If you have too much off contact, it's going to ruin your print resolution. It's just not going to work out at all. So you'd rather have a lower off contact than a larger off contact. Okay. So whenever you set your off contact, you know, keep that in mind, that you don't, be careful not to have it too far off the palette. 1/8 of an inch is probably sufficient for most printing applications. All right. So let's move in close up, and I'll try to show you a little bit about the off contact. Okay, so here we are close up on the press, and please remember that this off contact setting is exaggerated for demonstrative purposes. Okay, ideally you would probably want 1/8 of an inch of off contact for a t-shirt. The smaller the off contact, probably the better off you'll be. Of course, you don't want it to be microscopic or anything like that, but you know, you want to definitely avoid too much off contact. Okay, and you can see that when I slide my hand across the stencil, you can see it goes down and comes up. So when you're squeegeeing, you're going to squeegee, and as you squeegee, you know, this part of the stencil, when you're squeegeeing, when you're stroking, will come in contact with the t-shirt. But right behind it, as you continue your stroke, it lifts up. Okay, and as it lifts up, it causes the ink to be pulled out of the mesh, and hopefully your ink shear will be good enough that it comes out of the mesh nicely, cleanly, and all of the ink comes out of the mesh, leaving your stencil clear again. Okay, and like I said, off contact is going to really help you with coverage, but it will also help you with your print resolution. Okay? All right, so you can see I have it exaggerated here so that you can see how the screen actually bounces up and down a little bit to the print surface, which I have a t-shirt under here right now. Okay, just so that the stencil wouldn't stick to the palette and make all hideous noises. And that's it. So let's take a look at the print head, and I'll show you a little bit how the off contact is set. Okay, the first part of your off contact setting, this is going to be the most common off contact setting that you'll find on many presses, are these two bolts in here. Okay, there's a right and left bolt, and these two bolts attach to the print head, and they attach to the back of the micro registration unit. So this entire print head here is attached to the micro registration block by these two bolts here. Now these two bolts here have little slots that are oval and have length, so that when you go to the back side of the press, which I'll show you, the back side of the print head, there's a bolt on there that you can get a wrench on, and it loosens. And then we can move this head up and down. Okay, I just loosened the bolts so that you can see this, all right? Okay, so the bolts are loose, and this is where you can raise or lower the head. Okay, and this is what will set your off contact, and that's the major setting for off contact. And obviously if your screen was warped or something like that, you could also tweak this head accordingly to get your screen parallel to the palette. But if you're using a nice rigid straight aluminum frame, you would simply go up or down. Okay, so that's where the off contact will be on most presses. Now let's take a look around the back side. Okay, there's the bolt there. See? Okay, so together those two are your off contact. Okay, now some presses will also have a screen angle setting. Okay, this setting here can also affect your off contact, because what that does is will move the screen, the head up and down, right? So this is the part that you could adjust possibly if you have a little sagging towards the end. You could loosen, mine has a handle here, I loosen this and then I can actually tilt the head up a little bit. Okay, so this is an adjustment that can possibly be used with your off contact. It's not necessary if everything is in order. You should be able to just raise your off contact and you should be fine. But if the screen is a little goofy, or maybe it has a little flex, or maybe it's a little bent, you know, you could also use this setting to lift this side of the screen up a little bit so that when it sags, it should be at the appropriate off contact level. Okay? So that's pretty much it. That's the basic gist of off contact. And you know, if you have any questions about it, feel free to email me, and I'll be more than happy to respond to your messages on YouTube, or, you know, visit the website. Feel free to visit the website. The website is pretty cool. There's a lot of information on there, and I just added a whole bunch of kits from Renar. So we finally were able to put together little packages which include supplies and everything, and they're really cool. So you can check those out for your research endeavors and your screen printing education. And of course, if you would like to make a purchase, I'd be more than happy to help you out. I appreciate your support in any way, and doing business with me is always positive. I appreciate that a lot. So thanks a lot for watching my videos. I really appreciate your time and coming by the video channel, the YouTube channel, and checking it out. And I appreciate you stopping by the website. And remember, if you like what you see, please subscribe.